Hello and welcome to Network News. Today we're once again turning our attention towards the Channel Tunnel, as it seems a new operator could be entering the market sooner than had been expected. For context, Eurostar has had a monopoly on international rail travel between London and mainland Europe for more than 30 years, but recently more and more operators have been queuing up to provide some competition on the route. The Channel Tunnel itself is only at about 50% capacity, so that isn't a problem. However, there are some potential constraints to additional services. The first is at the London terminus station of St Pancras, where customs and security checks, as well as a relatively small waiting area, limit the station's throughput to about 1,800 passengers per hour. Thankfully, the infrastructure owner, London St Pancras High Speed, is undertaking work to increase that capacity to about 5,000 passengers per hour, with the rebuild also expected to reduce the processing time such that you won't need to turn up until just 15 minutes prior to your train's departure time, unlike today where you may have to turn up an hour or more beforehand. The other constraint is about where the trains for any additional services could be stored and maintained. For the last year or so, the debate has focused on Temple Mills Depot in East London, which is where Eurostar keeps their trains. However, it's not being used to 100% capacity, leaving the door open for a new operator to potentially fill the void. 4 operators applied to use the space in the depot, with the successful application being from Virgin Trains, who are planning to launch services to Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam from 2030. I've got a whole other video about that if you want to know more. But for today's story, we're taking another look at one of the rejected applicants, Trenitalia. This is the state-backed operator responsible for running almost all trains in Italy. However, they're also already operating open access routes in both France and Spain as well. They had applied to use the excess capacity at Temple Mills Depot to launch their own Channel Tunnel service, but with that capacity having now been allocated to Virgin Trains, it means that option is no longer on the table. However, many people in the comments of my previous video asked why a new depot couldn't be built somewhere else. And, well, that's exactly what Trenitalia is planning to do. On the 29th of December, Trenitalia announced it had entered into a partnership with the US-based private equity firm Certares, and that together they will invest €1 billion into expanding its rail operations within France, as well as launching a new route between Paris and London. In order to achieve this, they plan on increasing the number of trains within Trenitalia France's fleet, taking the total number of trains in the fleet up to 19. In order to accommodate this increase in fleet size, they're planning to build a new depot somewhere around Paris, though the exact details on where this will be haven't been released yet. What we do know is that the depot is expected to cost about €100 million and will be the main base of operations for their London services. However, they may opt to store one train a night in London so that it can form an early morning departure to Paris. Once the new trains and increased depot space are in place, their goal is to not only provide connectivity between London and Paris, but also to expand their existing operations within France. Currently, they operate routes south from Paris to destinations such as Lyon, Marseille and Milan, and so they'd like to increase the frequency on the core of this route between Paris and Lyon up from 19 to 28 trains per day. But back to the topic at hand, they say they can get the new route between London and Paris up and running by 2029, which would be a whole year earlier than Virgin Trains, who aren't planning to start services until 2030, and even then, that's assuming they don't end up getting delayed by Alstom's manufacturing backlog. Now, it's worth noting that Trenitalia's proposed routing is just between London and Paris at this stage, so they're not proposing any additional trains on Eurostar's other routes to Brussels and Amsterdam, unlike Virgin. Nevertheless, they've said that they anticipate that the London to Paris corridor could go the same way as other city pairs in Europe linked by high-speed rail, such as Rome to Milan, Madrid to Barcelona, or Paris to Brussels, which have seen aviation's market share collapse due to the presence of high-speed rail. For context, aviation currently has a 40% market share between London and Paris, which, considering the train journey only takes about 2.5 hours, feels too high. Additionally, by partnering with Certares, it's hoped that more tickets can be sold through Certares' various portfolio companies specialising in travel to, quote, promote rail-inclusive itineraries for leisure travellers, integrate booking and dynamic packaging tools, and encourage people to choose rail as their preferred mode of transportation. The more precise details of Trenitalia's plans are still yet to be revealed, but initial indicators are that they're planning to run 10 trains a day in each direction, and they had also previously indicated that they were planning to stop at Ashford International Station as well, a station which hasn't actually received any international trains since 2020 after Eurostar decided to stop calling there. The new services would be operated with Trenitalia's standard 200-metre long Frecciarossa 1000 trains, which have already seen widespread deployment across Europe, as well as an agreement between Hitachi, the manufacturer, and Trenitalia for more to be built in the future. Additionally, the trains have already received certification to operate within France, effectively giving them a head start. However, there may be constraints when it comes to operating 400-metre long trains in the Channel Tunnel itself. This is because the Channel Tunnel evacuation rules necessitate that at least one door per unit can open within 5 metres of one of the tunnel's cross passages for evacuation purposes. Each cross passage is located 375 metres apart, meaning that if two 200-metre long trains are joined together to form a 400-metre long train, you need to evacuate out of the front door of one and the rear door of the other. This presents a potential issue for the ETR 1000 trains, as the closest door to the end just leads to the cab and isn't necessarily publicly accessible or suitable for evacuation purposes. So if they're planning to run 400-metre long trains to London, this door would need to be modified to make it suitable for evacuation purposes. Otherwise, train lengths will have to remain limited to 200 metres. Not inherently a problem, just something to be aware of. Incidentally, the same problem has the potential to affect the new trains Eurostar has ordered, for which the front door is located even further back and would be much harder to design out due to the presence of a power car. John Worth explores all these issues and some of the potential fixes in his blog, which is well worth a read for anyone interested. Link in the description. The other thing to be aware of is that whilst Trenitalia has made clear its intention to run to London, none of this has been 100% confirmed yet. Trenitalia will still need to get the necessary track access rights and assurances from the British and French authorities, but with track capacity not being massively constrained, I'd be very surprised if they didn't get it. Any operator looking to take on Eurostar, and more importantly the airlines, with reduced fares and increased capacity, is a welcome development as far as I'm concerned. And the way things are going, the London to Paris corridor could be in for a pretty serious transformation over the next 5 years or so. Currently, the route sees about 15 to 17 trains a day in each direction, but with Virgin planning 13 return services a day, and now Trenitalia planning an additional 10, it could mean that the route would see an extra 23 services a day in each direction, which would be more than double what it has now. Under such a scenario, the airlines would take a battering, which has got to be a good thing when considering the CO2 emissions of short-haul aviation. Additionally, the prospect of reintroducing international services to Ashford sounds very promising indeed, assuming they do actually decide to go ahead with those plans. The Kent economy has really suffered since Eurostar withdrew international services, and as well as that, having a secondary stop this side of the Channel Tunnel to relieve pressure at St Pancras has got to be a good thing as well. Still, what are your thoughts on this potential new service through the Channel Tunnel? Are you excited by the prospect of not just one, but two operators now competing with Eurostar on the route? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to Network News for more updates like this, and until next time, thanks for watching.